Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. One of my favorite people in the entire community is here today. It's always like a therapy session when we have Bonnie Luna in the house. Welcome, Bonnie Luna.
Good morning, Greg. What a joy to be here with you.
Well, you make me feel so good about everything all the time. So I look forward to the 2 or 3 times you're here every year. And this year, this visit is because you're about to have 1,000 people over for the great National Day of Prayer. Tell me about this thing.
Well, close to 1,000.
It's always 1,000.
Yes, we're really excited about this year's annual National Day of Prayer breakfast. This is in commemoration of the National Day of Prayer. So we always have the prayer breakfast on the National Day of Prayer, designated day. And this year it is on Thursday, May the 3rd. We're really excited. We have a wonderful speaker coming in. We expect to be sold out, but we want to get the word out to people so they have the opportunity to buy those tickets and get there because it's something they really do not want to miss.
Thursday, May the 3rd, it's at the Civic Center.
Yes, sir.
And it's an early start.
Yes, 7 a.m.
7 o'clock. So you have to be dressed, shown up, ready to go at 7 o'clock. But the food's good.
The food is excellent. The doors open at 6:30, and usually we have a crowd waiting at about 6:15. So.
And it's 1,000 people. Now, the thing you do in the wintertime is the Magi, the Gift of the Magi show. That's another 1,000 people. So I could argue that you put the 2 biggest events in Salisbury on pretty much by yourself every year.
Well, no, not by myself.
Oh, you can say you've got helpers and all that, but we all know what's really going on. This is a Bonnie Luna production.
There's lots and lots of individuals involved with the National Day of Prayer, and we have a wonderful committee. And by the way, I have a co-chair, Mr. Jack Savage. So Jack and I really share the responsibilities. And of course, Jack Savage is the name when it comes to these kind of events in Salisbury. So I'm really privileged to be able to work with Jack and the committee.
Jack from Jack's Religious Gift Shop for years and years. And what a great man he is.
Oh, my goodness. He and his wife, Ruth Ann, are
Ruth is amazing.
They're wonderful individuals, godly individuals, love the Lord, and are such a joy to work with. I mean, Jack and I are best friends and really work on this hand in hand. So it's really not Bonnie Luna. It's Jack Savage and a whole team of individuals.
It's such an inspiring event. It really is. I go in groggy, kind of cynical every year, and I walk out refreshed and alive and ready. I even go to the thing afterward where the kids sing at the government office building. So I'm so invigorated from your event, and it just kind of carries me through. But you've got a history of great speakers, and the guy this year is really interesting. You've got a retired Coast Guard admiral.
A retired 3-star Coast Guard admiral. He just retired last year, so he's fresh off of an assignment. So a godly man who, Greg, a couple years ago was willing to lay his stars on the table to be able to speak publicly about his faith. He decided to make the stand that he had a constitutional right to free speech, and he therefore had an obligation to his Lord to be vocal about religious liberty, particularly among those that he was leading, not to proselytize, but when there was a need, he felt that he had to be faithful. And so he was willing to lay down his stars for it. And God was faithful to Admiral William Lee. He did not lose his stars by speaking out publicly, but rather got that 3rd star. And he has such a testimony, such a story to tell. And we're really privileged to have this man coming to Salisbury to speak at our prayer breakfast.
Yeah, I looked him up, and very impressive record in terms of not just his career, and not just in terms of his relationship with the Lord, but also the Constitution and government and how to run the country.
Absolutely. This man dedicated his life to public service in the military. He has such an amazing bio. I would just encourage those that are listening to us talk, if they really want to know the caliber of the man that's coming to speak, that they just go on the internet, Google William Admiral William. He likes to be called Dean,
right.
So it's usually William Dean Lee, and they will be able to read this man's biography. You can YouTube some of his speeches. Wonderful, wonderful individual.
Yeah, and he looks good in a uniform.
Oh, he does.
No, I think my favorite event in the recent years, you had Fred Barnes, one of my friends from when I was in Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
down a couple years ago. And it was just such a fun, kind of a different take when Fred was here. And so it's just, the speakers that you get are just so interesting. How do you get these speakers? How do you get the idea for who you want to have?
I really do believe that God gives us the speaker that comes. We have had times when when I say we, I'm talking about our committee. We will be right up at the edge of the calendar, not knowing who our speaker is going to be, or we would have expected one speaker and then that one falls through and we suddenly need to replace him or her, and we just begin to pray about it. And God has opened the door for each of the men that have come to speak at our prayer breakfast. It is a wonderful opportunity to be part of this committee because it is a praying group.
Right.
And when we have our meetings, probably 25% of our time in those meetings, if not more, is spent in prayer. We're seeking God's favor for the event. We're asking God to guide us. We're asking God to give us the wisdom to know exactly who should participate in the program. So it's just such a joy to be part of the committee and to be committing every aspect of what we're doing into prayer and asking God to be the guide, give us the guidance to know what to do.
It is a special day.
It is a wonderful day.
How long has the National Day of Prayer been around?
This is the 67th year of the National Day of Prayer since it was designated, since the first Thursday of May was designated a National Day of Prayer.
And that was by President Roosevelt?
And then President Reagan set it for the first Thursday of May.
Right. I knew he had some involvement, kind of rejuvenated it.
Yes.
To a degree.
Yes, and you know what, Greg, I just think we're really at a time in history and in this nation when we as Christians cannot take for granted what is happening on Thursday, May the 3rd. The fact that we have a day that has been set aside by the federal government as a national day of prayer. We have to be really aware of the fact that this may not always be the case because we see so much of Christian values being undermined in this nation, and the protests against what we stand for, our Christian liberties are eroding daily. And I like to tell people, listen, don't take for granted that we're going to be doing this the third Thursday of every May forever, because it is really we're on a slippery slope, and that could be taken away from us as a designated national day. So, but it's more than just that. We as Christians have such a responsibility to be in prayer for our nation, for our leaders. The National Day of Prayer, we really have an emphasis on, of course, the nation, our president, his cabinet, the Congress, but then it filters down from the federal level to the state level, to the county level, to the city level. Being in prayer for our leaders in this nation is so critically important. And we have a real responsibility and obligation to pray for the individuals that are in leadership. God has given us that mandate. God says that we are to pray for those who are in authority. We don't get to pray for the individual that we like, or maybe the individual who's in the party we support. We have that responsibility and obligation to pray for every individual, because as a believer in Christ, I believe that any individual that is in a position of leadership, God has allowed that individual to rise to that position. And therefore, I see them as God's appointed individuals. I may not agree with them, but God has them there for his own purposes. Therefore, I have a real obligation to pray for those individuals, for their personal success, for them to have the wisdom to be able to lead whatever their position is, whether it's federal, state, local. God just has us in a position as Christians where we are the foundation of, I think, society, and therefore we should be making prayer, and particularly for our nation and our leadership, just a priority in our lives.
Yeah, I don't feel like Christian values are under attack so much as they have to be defended sometimes, if that makes sense. Like, maybe that's a subtle distinction.
I think that
Because
Christianity...
people don't understand, I think.
I think Christianity is under attack, but it's not something new. It's been under attack
Right.
since the foundation of the earth. And,
Right.
and I think we can look back 2,000 years ago and see what happened with Jesus' crucifixion. And therefore, it has been a battle ever since. But it is a joy to be a Christian. It is a joy to do the work of the Lord. Because I am a Christian, I really can look out across mankind. And Greg, I hope that I'm being honest with myself when I say I love people. I don't look at individuals based on their race, their creed, their religion, because I try to look at every individual as a created being, that a man or a woman that has been created in the image of God. And I think I have a real responsibility there to love everybody. I think that is the foundation of the Christian faith, is to love everyone, regardless.
And I get that vibe from the day of prayer. I mean, it couldn't be any more Christian of an event, or like it's truly the day of prayer. It's a religious event, but it feels more of a social event. And there's a camaraderie there that just feels so positive. Like I said, I go out of there like skipping. I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's really what it's all about. This is when the body of Christ comes together. We're not coming together as Presbyterians or Methodists or Baptists or Episcopalians or any one of the independent faiths or denominations. We are there as the body of Christ. We are there to be in fellowship and to pray. We just check all the denominations at the door. And it is a Christian event, but we welcome anyone and everyone to be there. We make no apologies for the fact that it is Christian, but anybody is welcome, and they will be loved and treated respectfully and enjoyed if they choose to come out to be with us.
We'll go back to that, but how was the Magi this year? I get the feeling it was another amazing year.
Well, the Magi was a great success. Thank you for allowing us to be on your program to talk about that. Coming up in November, we will be celebrating our 25th anniversary of the Magi Fund. And
That's
so
amazing.
it's going to be a big year for us.
25 years.
25 years.
In
Now,
November,
I was only 10 when I started.
and November's like next week.
Yes.
It'll be here that fast.
Yes.
But that's at Y-High every year.
Y-High.
And you have the singers come in from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
The Capital National...
National Christian Choir.
Exactly. And they sing with our local people.
Yes.
And just an amazing event.
It is. And when I come back in November, or hopefully maybe in October, to talk about that, I will just tell you wonderful things about that choir that come. But it's a special group of people.
And you won the Salisbury Award for it, which I'm jealous of. I hope to one day win the Salisbury Award.
The Magi Fund was...
Well, it was you. They were just looking for an excuse to give it to you. And they put Magi on there with it, but it was you.
You know, that award went to the thousands of individuals who have been a part of the Magi Fund over the last 24 years.
I have to ask you about something just locally. There's an email yesterday from you encouraging some support for the Harcum family in Mardella Springs. Do you want to talk about that?
If you'd like, Bland Harcum Jr. Apparently is facing some real struggles. The family has had some horrendous difficulties over the last several years.
We've had coverage of it in the paper, so I hope people
Yes.
have read it, but yes.
Yeah, real tragedies. And Bland is facing losing beechnut farms. And we as Christians are given opportunities to help those in need. The needs are beyond description. This just happens to be one of those opportunities when just for a small $15 donation, you can eat a meal and help a family that's having some real troubles. I guess if the funds aren't raised, if Bland Harcum Jr. doesn't get some help, the possibilities of losing Beechnut Farm, which I believe has been in the family since the 1600s.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for us to do something good for someone else. It's a small thing. It's a small thing when you speak about the financial contribution. It's a huge thing with that family. But I think that the little things really make God smile. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do.
Bland Sr., I think about him every day, and
Wonderful.
I miss him so much. Very religious man, interesting political man, a little bit conservative, but not too conservative in a lot of ways. Smart, common sense man, and he's so missed by the community, I think.
Yeah. And hardworking. I don't think
his
any
wife
of us...
Louise was a saint.
Yeah, yeah. Did wonderful things. I don't recall the organization out on the northwest side of the county for the underprivileged.
Right, I should know. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Good, wonderful family.
Yeah. And the last dairy farm in Wicomico County.
Yes, and Bland Jr. has already lost his herd, so it's a matter of saving the farm and maybe being able to restore that dairy farm. I'm not sure what the plan is, but
yeah, and a tragedy of just unspeakable dimensions, just unbelievable.
Yes,
that those things can happen. What are your other favorite nonprofits around town? Are there ones that you like more than others? Ones that you really pay close attention to?
Well, I think Salisbury is so blessed with the number of great nonprofit organizations. And you know, one of the things that the Magi Fund really enjoys doing is collaborating or partnering with other organizations. And we've done that with Lower Shore Enterprises. The clients there are always our guests at the concert. Faith-Filled Women is a wonderful organization here in Salisbury that has an annual conference. They just had that a couple weeks ago. Just truly wonderful organizations. But if you want me to tell you about some of my favorites.
Yes, please.
If you're familiar with Young Life, it's an organization, it's a nonprofit organization.
It's a new thing, right?
No, it's been around for many, many, many years. But that is a ministry to high school and middle school children. Really tries to just give young people the opportunity to have fellowship and get to know the Lord. Dave Etling is the leader here in Salisbury, but my understanding is that now Young Life has been very successful here on the shore, and Young Life is in every high school from the Bay Bridge to Ocean City. Just a ministry of sharing Christ with young people. And they are about to establish College Young Life, so they'll also be on hopefully the college campuses here on the shore. Fruitland Community Center.
Yes, they just won the Salisbury Award this year.
Yes, Mary Gladys Jones and Alexis.
Boy, is she amazing. 99?
She's going to be 99 next month.
Okay.
Yes. Doing a fabulous ministry to young people in Fruitland through the Fruitland Community Center. Again, they have just an amazing love for children, and their after-school programs and what they do with their summer programs of ministering and caring for the young people is really tremendous.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would like to have her on. But, you know, even as the editor guy, I'm supposed to know all these things, but I don't know about the Fruitland Community Center the way I should, which makes me think that most people don't either. You know, that their contribution is great, but people don't really know about them.
Well, and there are just so many wonderful organizations around that are doing so much good for the community.
Right. And she's a special person. I think the Greater Salisbury, winning the Salisbury Award provides attention to that group, which I think will help the group. But for a Fruitland entity to win the Salisbury Award, I mean, to me that's fascinating.
Well, and I think that they've received the Hinson Award of Excellence from the Community Foundation. I think they've gotten about every award in the community, and I believe that Mrs. Jones also got the Rotary Four-Way.
Yes, she did. Yes,
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would hope that when I'm 99, I will still be serving the community and serving the Lord. She has a real love for the Lord, and I think that's really what prompts her to do what she does.
So when you're 99, it'll be the 55th year of the of the Magi.
Well, I may not make it.
Someone's got to do all that organizing, Bonnie. I can only imagine what your dining room table looks like.
Well, that is the one thing about the prayer breakfast Magi. It all operates off of kitchen tables, so we have no overhead. Don Hackett at Dove Point has been part of the prayer breakfast committee, and Don has been extremely generous in allowing us to hold our meetings at Dove Point and providing us with the venue for doing the things that we need to do in preparing for Thursday, May the 3rd. And maybe I should just say again that the National Day of Prayer Breakfast is Thursday, May the 3rd. It's going to be at the Civic Center. It's always in the Midway Room. Tickets are available at the Country House or by mail.
Mike Delano, a great supporter.
Yes, Mike Delano is a wonderful individual. So people can get tickets at the Country House, or they can call me, 410-749-1633. If they are outside the area, don't have the opportunity to go to the Country House, because otherwise they would have to order them by mail. And I can tell anybody how to do that. We do not sell tickets at the door because we have every year been sold out.
Right.
Every seat is assigned. So it is really important that folks get their tickets as soon as possible and not just show up at the door because we won't have a seat for them.
Right, and then it's embarrassing. The first year I had the paper, you invited me to the prayer breakfast, and I was completely unprepared to pay, and you were able to accommodate me, so you were just so kind. But the table that you put me at was with Mike Delano and like Mary Beth Croza and Jim Mathias, and it was like the who's who of Salisbury. And it's like, what am I doing sitting with these people? But you made me feel so special and so important, and you had a sense of that the paper was accomplishing something and promoting good in the community. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something special. Bonnie has recognized that I'm doing something special.
Well, we really appreciate what the Salisbury Independent does for the community. And let me just say that, yes, we do read your paper, and yes, it is such an asset for the community. Without Salisbury Independent, we would really be in the dark, because you really are the one that's shining the light on local issues, local happenings. And it is an absolute blessing for us to be able to call you and say, Greg, we're doing this. Could you give us a little coverage on it? And so thank you.
Well, I wasn't setting you up for that.
No, I am so glad you've given me the opportunity to say publicly thank you. Thank you and the Salisbury Independent for what you're doing in service to this community, because you're making a huge difference. I think we impact lives in ways that we don't even have an idea or we don't realize.
You love Salisbury. Why do you love Salisbury?
That's a good question. I think I love Salisbury because of the people in Salisbury.
You're from West Virginia. You're a come here, but
yeah,
yes.
I'm a come here, yeah. When I was first introduced to Salisbury, of course, Louis and I got married and moved to Salisbury, and he was the executive director of the Greater Salisbury Committee. And I have to tell you that that was a great privilege for Louis, but it was also a great privilege for me, because I really met, when I moved to Salisbury, the individuals who were in the top leadership positions of this community, and I realized immediately the caliber of individuals. The whole of society has lost some of that sense of responsibility of serving whether it's in the nonprofit sector, in the political sector, whatever, we just don't seem to have that same sense of community spirit and responsibility and commitment that maybe these individuals that I met when I first came to Salisbury had. They certainly are individuals to be admired and emulated, and I would hope that that there are those individuals in the community that are walking in those big boots.
We have to all step up.
Yes, and we have wonderful leaders today. I don't want to in any way diminish that, but I say that because I'm part of the group that I'm speaking about. I just wish that I had that sense of community as those individuals, and I'm thinking about Frank Morris and Dick Henson and Gordon Gladden and Ed Banks and Art Cooley, Tom Trice, and the list just goes on. And I've missed so many of those very important individuals. Look at the roster back in the 90s. What an incredible group of individuals. And so why do I love Salisbury? I love Salisbury because Salisbury loved me. And brought me into the fold, and brought Louis into the fold, and we became a part of this community and gave our hearts to the community. So yeah, it's home. It's home. That's why I love it.
May 3rd, Wicomico Youth and Civic Center,
yes.
7 a.m.
Yes, great time of fellowship. It's the body of Christ coming together. Every Christian on the shore should be running to the Country House today to get tickets, or calling me.
Country House on East Main Street has tickets.
Yes.
They can call you too?
Yes, they can call me. It's always a joy to get those phone calls and to be able to help people get tickets. And of course, our speaker is Rear Admiral William Dean Lee. People can go online and Google him and find out what an incredible individual this is and what an amazing opportunity is for us to have him in Salisbury.
He's going to inspire and kick a few butts.
And I forgot to tell you something really exciting. In addition to having Admiral Lee with us on the morning of the prayer breakfast, we will have another admiral coming from the White House. So we're going to have 2 admirals on the morning of the prayer breakfast.
Who's the other one?
The other one is a young man who actually grew up here on the shore. His name is Doug Fears. And Doug, a local Ocean City boy, has just recently made admiral with the Coast Guard. And Doug is actually responsible for us being able to work with Admiral Lee to get him to come for the prayer breakfast. So we've invited Doug to come, and he will actually be introducing Admiral Lee. So it is so exciting to think that we're going to have 2 admirals, a 1-star and a 3-star, at the prayer breakfast. It is going to be an exciting morning.
She's Bonnie Luna. Like I said, I enjoy when Bonnie comes by.
Greg, thank you for having me. It's such a privilege. And tickets are only $20.
20. That's a deal.
It is a great deal.
And it's tax deductible.
I don't think so.
Okay. But it's the right thing to do.
It is the right thing to do. It is the opportunity. It's the opportunity to be part of something really special in Salisbury. But more importantly, it's an opportunity for us to recognize that we, as Americans, have been granted a National Day of Prayer. We have an opportunity, but we also have a responsibility to come together to pray for our nation.
Thanks for being here, Bonnie.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper, another edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.